Hey guys, Ben here and welcome back to another video on Superman Lois Season 4. Today we're going to be reviewing and breaking down Episode 8, so if you do go on to enjoy the video, please be sure to leave a like and a comment and subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any future videos later this year. Okay, so this episode is the third to last episode, so we only got 2 episodes after this. This episode just aired and it was a great episode, let me just say. The inclusion of Tom Cavanagh made this episode. It was so good. We also got to see Brainiac for the first time, or Superman Lois's version of Brainiac. So we're going to talk about that and a lot more throughout this video. So if you do go on to enjoy the video, please be sure to leave a like and a comment and subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any future videos later this year. So the episode begins in the aftermath of Clark revealing himself to the world as Superman, which happened at the end of last episode, and as normal we're going to be going through this episode chronologically, breaking it down bit by bit, so stick around as we talk about every key detail and what it could mean for the final 2 episodes. And as we've known for a while, Lex was eventually going to be clean shaven. He was going to be ready for this big interview, which we see him preparing for at the start of the episode, and this is going to potentially help LexCorp and what it's doing in terms of business wise, but also it's playing into his plans, and this is something that Lex isn't in control of. He's given the reins to Amanda to take control here, and so he set up this interview, and we're going to get into that just in a bit. So Natalie and John Henry Irons return in this episode. They are leading the Squad K, that is what they called them, so that is a squad at the DoD. I guess that's a little reference to kind of like a Suicide Squad but working for the DoD, and they are working a lot. They're very busy. Natalie's barely got any time to spend with her boyfriend or any of her friends like Jordan and Jonathan because she's just overworked, and it's clear that Natalie is probably going to step away from this at some point because Superman is back in the world, and at this point they don't know that Superman is weakened, but everything kind of seems normal. But this plays out more later in the episode, and so at this point we see Clark and Lois go to the hospital, and Lois is finally done with her treatments. The cancer is gone for now, and they celebrate. But before they can properly celebrate, as the episode cuts to an ad break, you get Lex and Tom Cavanagh showing up on TV as he promises to expose Lois Lane on live TV. So Tom Cavanagh, it turns out, is playing none other than Gordon Godfrey on Superman Lois, and that is a crazy revelation that I was not expecting. Obviously we knew that he would be showing up. For a long time we were all speculating he's going to be Brainiac. We see it's a different actor in this episode, and Tom is playing Gordon Godfrey, who runs his own TV show. And if you guys remember Gordon Godfrey from past DC projects, you'll remember him from Young Justice. He was a great character who would regularly appear on Young Justice. So I was super happy to hear that he was playing Gordon Godfrey, and one of his early lines in the show, he says flash forward, and that, to all Flash fans out there, definitely gave you a little smirk on your face, because it definitely did to me. I was like, I see what you did there, Superman Lois. And so what he is there to do is orchestrate this interview, be the middleman between Lex and Lois. And so they have a separate interview with Lex that goes on earlier in the day, and Lex talks about the truth, trying to skew it in his way obviously, and Lex challenges Lois to come on air at 7 PM with Gordon Godfrey, who has another show on later that night, and so they expect her to show up to have that debate live on air. And obviously Lois has got mixed feelings about this because everything so far has been very planned out by Lex. He's got his hands in everything. Everything that's been happening throughout season 4 has some sort of link to Lex. So there is clearly something more going on. And let's talk about Candace, because she randomly breaks up with Jonathan out of the blue whilst Jonathan is hanging out with Jordan and Natalie, who, might I say, it was great to see them all back together. I feel like Natalie is definitely one of my favourite characters on the show, along with John Henry, and it was such a shame that we haven't seen them in such a while. Like, they've only had 1 episode so far this season, and their second appearance obviously been more spread out than the other characters, so it just feels like we haven't seen them in a while, but it's great to have them back. And this came as a total surprise, but later in the episode, Jonathan does go to Candace's home and talk about this with her. And so let's go back to Lex, because Lex feels like a fraud in the suit. This is what he claims, because he's in the clean shaven look and it's just not his normal self. And Amanda is there the whole time throughout this episode, being by his side, and it's clear she has feelings for him. We've known that for multiple episodes, and that is what drives her, along with the kind of loyalty that she feels to him, obviously. And so she's really pushing for this interview to go down, because she thinks it's going to be working in his favor. Now let's talk about John Henry, because at one point in the episode he comes into the Gazette saying that Otis has hung himself to Lois the day before he is supposed to testify. Now obviously they know Lex has got to him, one of his henchmen has got round and broken into the DoD, or somehow the message has gone through and someone in the DoD is working under Lex, and he supposedly died via suicide. But obviously we know that's not the case, because he is just cleaning up the loose ends, and he doesn't realize that that's not the only loose end that he should have cleaned up, and we will find that out later in this episode. But at that point a brick comes flying through the window saying that Lois is a liar, or at least that is implied because it's thrown into the Gazette. But at this point John also notices that Superman's powers are not up to scratch, and the fact that he didn't hear or even see the brick coming through until it actually smashed through the window. And so he invites him to come round to his garage to try and fix his hearing and do some tests on him, because nothing is really quite perfect with him right now. We've known that, obviously, and Superman has been noticing that himself, but not anyone has really suggested, oh, maybe you should actually look into this, or maybe you should go to the fortress or go to John Henry and potentially they can see what's up with him. And let's talk about Brainiac, because Milton, which is the show's version of Brainiac, shows up in the flesh. He's not your typical looking Brainiac, he looks like a normal person, but he was the one in the car crash earlier in the episode. And I have to say, as soon as that car crash happened out of the blue, I knew that was Milton. I knew that he was going to show up in the next couple of episodes, and I don't know about you guys, but I predicted that that was him. Like, as soon as I saw that car crash, it was way too convenient, and we know that Lex was going to get a Lexo suit which looks exactly the same as John Henry's suit. So yeah, it just all kind of made sense. Their return in this episode, potentially Milton showing up, and everything going to plan with Lex. And we know that he wants a super suit, and Milton has been tasked in creating one, and he just takes a shortcut to do that, I guess. And so he shows up, he looks like a normal guy, but it's very exciting because technically he is Brainiac, even though he's not referred to as Brainiac yet, and he doesn't have the looks. But that's really exciting because he is clearly a genius. Now let's move on, because everything leads to Metropolis as Jonathan, Jordan and Natalie go to try and get Candace back, and it actually works out. They talk things out and they also kiss at one point. And I have to say, personally, I was really happy to see this because I do like Candace and I like their relationship. I think they really work together, and it would have been such a shame to throw this all away after so many years. And obviously this is to do with the attention that they keep on getting from the media, and that's because Jonathan has obviously been exposed as Superman's son, and this has just taken a big toll on Candace, and like it's taken a big toll on a lot of people around them. But let's jump back to LexCorp, because we got Amanda who actually shouts at Lex to finish what they've started, because Lex begins to question everything just before they do the interview with Lois, and just after that they get the confirmation Lois is coming, and so they have the live on air confrontation between Lex Luthor and Lois Lane. Now this interview was great. It was chopped up into little bits throughout the episode, throughout the back half of the episode, and they show footage eventually of Clark beating Lex up, and you're like, oh shit, everything's going wrong. But it's at this point that Lois says that Lex's daughter is ready to call in as her evidence, but it's at that time that Amanda panics and realizes we have to do something now, and so she calls in Milton, who gets busy and hacks into John Henry's suit to kill Superman. And so he completely controls all of John Henry's tech because of him obviously having that fake car crash earlier in the episode. He was able to get some bits and pieces that he needed, I guess, to hack into the suit and to hack into all of his software. And he is clearly way smarter than John Henry, and he proves his worth in an absolute instant. It was so quick. But Lex and Lois, their debate was great, and I like that Clark was there standing next to Amanda, that contrast, the two supporting figures of these two obviously very differing figures, that being Lex and Lois on screen. And in the middle of that you got Gordon Godfrey, played by Tom Cavanagh, who once again absolutely killed it in this episode. He was great. They were bouncing off of each other, obviously throwing accusations at each other, and Gordon was in the middle. Obviously at first he tries to be a bit like ambiguous, like I'm not on anyone's side, but by the end of the episode you pretty much know that he is all about supporting Lex Luthor because it works in terms of the image and what he is trying to get across to everyone that is watching on TV. But as Milton hacks the suits, both John Henry and Natalie's suit go crazy. They are controlled by Milton. Natalie's suit is heard flying through the sky and Jordan knocks it down, but Jordan is taken out quite quickly by the suit because the suit is extremely powerful and it's being controlled by someone obviously who has the ability to enhance the suit. And so Jonathan steps into action. You got Natalie, who is trying to deactivate the suit by doing some code words, and Candace is there and she gets shrugged off quite easily. And so it's at this point that Superman flies out the window of LexCorp, which happens in an abrupt moment that kills the interview between Lois and Lex because it takes them all off guard. And so Superman flies out because John Henry is flying towards LexCorp to kill Superman, because that is what Milton has programmed the suit to do, and John Henry has no control at all. And so they fight it out despite John Henry not really trying to fight against him, but the suit is fighting against him. And I guess this kind of plays into a lot of people's modern day fears of technology, and obviously at a wider scope AI and what potentially that can do if we rely on tech too much, which obviously he relies on for his suit. But that can be hacked, that can be controlled by someone else. Unlike Superman, say, who has his own powers and he's able to control himself. He isn't anything fake or enhanced. He is just Superman. Obviously losing his powers doesn't help, but that doesn't matter in this case. And so he fights off John Henry and he's able to disable the suit by damaging it enough. And it's at this point that Milton ejects John Henry from the suit and he goes flying down. Superman saves him and Milton gets the suit. And that is what they've been working towards, even if we didn't realize this earlier in the episode. And so Natalie's suit in the meantime is destroyed by the boys. So this means that they're definitely both going to get new suits and new looks by the end of the season, and that's going to be great. I really do look forward to that. But before the episode ends, we have Gordon Godfrey talking to the camera in front of the broken window, saying, "Can Lois Lane be trusted?" as Clark and Lois watch the TV. And it's at this point that Clark tells Lois about his problems and how he is eventually going to die and he will lose his powers. And the same thing happens as he tells the boys in a later scene in this episode. And obviously this puts a timer on him because Superman will die. He will lose his powers and he has been greatly affected by his human heart. So the question is, are they going to stick with this, or are they going to figure some way fixing him? Or is he actually going to grow old with Lois, and will he die? And if he does die, he will die earlier than Lois, because obviously General Lane was a lot older than Lois, and so his timer in his heart will be coming to an end definitely earlier if things go as the way they are right now. And also before the episode ended, we have Lex and Amanda who kiss for the first time as they hear the good news from Milton, and obviously we can infer that they captured the Lexo suit and they will have a killer suit. And you see that in the ending scene of the episode because they do have the suit and he is working on it, that being Brainiac aka Milton, who is going to be upgrading the suit in his own way to make it all powerful, and is going to be really a match for Superman. Traditionally, he would have a lot of kryptonite in it to fight against Superman, and you know the suit is going to be loaded with that, because that is going to be the way that he's going to potentially kill Superman, because he is weakened right now. So that pretty much does it for this video, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and hopefully you enjoyed the episode. It was a great episode. Obviously we'll have more videos out in the next couple of days in regards to the trailer for episode 9 that will come out tomorrow, and we have more content coming in the next week or so, because we've only got 2 episodes left of Superman and Lois, and obviously my channel is not going anywhere after that. We're going to kind of pivot more to some other DC shows. Potentially you want coverage of the Penguin and maybe even Creature Commandos later this year, and more DCU content and anything you guys are interested in. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, please be sure to leave a like and a comment, and subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any future videos. But for now, you can click on the top right corner of the screen to watch my latest video, and I will catch you guys later. Goodbye.